Joining me today is Filomena May, who is a financial advisor with Raymond James in Calgary. Thanks for joining us today, Filomena.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
Well, there was a report out just the other day from the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy in Canada, showing that the number of Albertans who have been filing for insolvency and bankruptcy is on the rise. Tell me what you're seeing out there in the city in terms of people's financial situations these days.
There is a little bit of panic. I've been seeing it a lot more these days. I mean, I've been dealing with finances for 17 years. So, we went through a little bit of that in 2008. So we saw that. This time it's a little bit different. And although the US was in a bad position, now debt in Canada is actually superseding the US, which is a bit scary. We're going back to debt levels that are 20% higher than they were in 2007.
So when you're looking at Calgary specifically, what's put people in that situation?
Well, I mean, what's happening with oil, that hasn't helped because we are an oil town. And so there has been a lot of unemployment, so that's on the rise. There is some positive news coming in. You know, we're seeing some positivity even in the tech sector. That's coming to Calgary. We're seeing some positive news with oil, but nothing's going to change overnight, right? There's a big problem. There's a lot of debt. There's a lot of unemployment. So to get the ball rolling again, it takes time.
Do you think, obviously, you mentioned the unemployment problem and issues with the oil patch there, but do you think a lot of ways over time, Calgarians kind of overspent, lived beyond their means as well?
By far. And it doesn't matter how much money you're making, if you don't have the right habits in place, you'll just keep running into the same issue. So, I always say, plan for the worst, but everything else is gravy, and there's always something that happens. So you don't want to be in a position where you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that's been happening more and more.
Okay, so I'm a typical Calgarian, say, and I'm in trouble financially. What are the steps that you would advise people to take to get themselves out of that situation?
Well, the biggest one is don't spend more than what you make. I mean, it seems like a common one. And, you really have to look at what is a want versus a need and really break it down there. That's one of the first steps, because you need to have some reserve. I always say cash is king. So you want to have a minimum of 3 to 6 months worth of spending set aside, not what you make, because some people spend less, some people spend more. So if you're spending more than what you make, you should save that aside.
Mm-hmm.
Really need to backtrack, because let's face it, property taxes have come up, insurance is coming up. So we really need to prepare for those things. You don't want to get into a situation where you have to sell your home.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, have a roadmap. Like, a lot of Canadians do not have a plan in place where they know what to do. So how do you save more in taxes? So not everyone knows the Tax Act. So work with someone that can give you that guidance if you don't have the time to research it. So it's like having a sports coach, right? Some of the top athletes have a coach to get them to that next level. So the same should be with your finances. And what we're finding now, there was just an article that came out not that long ago that the World Economic Forum is saying that individuals will outlive their retirement money by 10 years. So the fact that we're living longer, we need to prepare so that the earlier you start, in the better position you will be. So the power of compound interest. So yes, we want to make sure that we're paying down that debt, but we want to be able to do it strategically.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of people uh, don't think about these types of things until they really, really have to think about them, right? However, it should have been something like, I guess, like health prevention is always great, right?
Right, and people have their company plans, which is great if they have them, but in a lot of situations I've seen where people just focused on their pension and then something happens with the pension plan, which we've been seeing a lot of, or just focused on their stock plan and then it's an oil stock and it just plummeted, right? So we want to make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and just it's risk management as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great then. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today, Filomena.
Thank you, Mario.